Picture this. You're zipped into a tent somewhere in the middle of nowhere. No lights, no walls, just a paper-thin sheet of fabric standing between you and a forest that's wide awake. Somewhere out there, a wolf is moving through the trees. A bear is sniffing the air. Maybe even something bigger. And you. You're flat on your back, mouth open, completely unconscious, unable to defend yourself even if your life depended on it, which technically it does. So here's the question that should honestly keep you up at night. Why doesn't anything come for you? Because on paper, you are the easiest meal in that entire forest. You can't run. You can't fight. You can't even hear properly. A sleeping human is, biologically speaking, just a warm bag of meat lying still in the open. And yet, morning after morning, campers all over the world wake up completely untouched. This isn't luck. This isn't a one-time coincidence. There's an entire hidden system of biology, psychology, and history working in your favor every single night, and almost nobody talks about it. Let's break it down. First reason, you are, without knowing it, one of the most feared creatures on Earth. Not because you're strong, not because you're fast. You're actually kind of pathetic physically compared to most predators. No claws, no fangs, can't see in the dark. Can't outrun a rabbit, let alone a wolf. But somewhere along the evolutionary timeline, humans became the single most terrifying sound a predator can hear. There was a well-known experiment where researchers set up speakers in mountain lion territory and played back ordinary human conversation. Nothing aggressive, nothing loud, just people chatting. The big cats didn't investigate. They fled. In many cases, they ran faster from human voices than they did from recorded sounds of dogs barking. Some of these same cats abandoned fresh kills mid-meal the moment they heard talking nearby, walking away from food they had just risked their life to catch. That's not a small reaction. That's an animal deciding that being near humans is worse than going hungry. And this fear isn't something predators learn individually. It's baked into them. For roughly 2 million years, humans have been hunting the biggest, scariest animals on the planet. And winning. Mammoths, giant cave bears, saber-toothed cats, ancient bison the size of trucks, all gone, largely because of us. Every generation of predator that was bold enough to approach human camps got wiped out. Only the cautious ones, the ones who kept their distance, survived long enough to pass on their genes. Do that for thousands of generations, and you don't just get learned caution, you get instinct. A wolf today has never personally been hunted by a human, but somewhere in its nervous system, an ancient alarm still goes off the moment it smells one nearby. It doesn't need to think about it. The warning is already written into it. Second reason, you smell like a walking contradiction. Predators don't hunt by sight the way we do. They hunt by scent, and their noses are absurdly more powerful than ours. A bear's sense of smell is often compared to being several times stronger than a bloodhound's. Wolves can pick up odors from over a mile away in the right wind. Big cats even have a special organ in the roof of their mouth just for analyzing scent particles in the air. Now imagine what they pick up when they walk past your tent. You don't smell like prey. You smell like synthetic tent fabric, sunscreen, bug spray, leftover dinner, soap, shampoo, a strange chemical cocktail that has no equivalent anywhere in nature. Underneath all that, yes, there's a faint trace of primate, but that's not what triggers a hunting response. A predator's instinct to attack is extremely specific, tuned over millions of years to the smell, shape, and movement of particular prey animals. You don't match the pattern. You're not in their internal food category. To their nervous system, you're less like a meal and more like an unidentified object that happens to be breathing. Third reason, fire is basically a warning sign written in a language every animal on Earth understands. This one's almost never talked about, but it might be one of the smartest things humans have ever stumbled onto, possibly before we even understood why it worked. Fear of fire isn't something animals learn through experience. It's automatic, hardwired, present even in animals that have never encountered flame in their lives. Evolution favored this fear hard because animals that fled wildfires survived and animals that didn't simply didn't. Humans have been keeping fires burning through the night for well over 1,000,000 years. And every single night that fire burns, it's sending out a signal into the dark. Something here controls the one force every animal is born afraid of. Stay away. For predators, that signal doesn't even need to be processed consciously anymore. It just triggers automatic avoidance the moment they see the glow or smell the smoke. Long before we invented tools, weapons, or shelter, we accidentally invented a repellent that still works on some of the most dangerous animals alive. Fourth reason, predators are nowhere near as reckless as movies make them look. Forget everything Hollywood has taught you about apex predators being fearless killing machines that attack anything that moves. That image is basically fiction. In reality, big predators are some of the most cautious, calculating animals on the planet, because they have to be. There's no hospital for an injured wolf, no painkillers for a lion with a torn muscle. In the wild, one bad injury, a broken tooth, a damaged leg, a deep cut that gets infected, can mean a slow death by starvation weeks later. So every predator is constantly running a silent cost-benefit calculation before it commits to anything. Is this worth the risk? A sleeping human fails that calculation badly. First, there's unfamiliarity. Predators are confident hunting animals they've studied for generations. They know exactly how a deer bolts, how a wild boar reacts when cornered, what a rabbit does when it panics. They have zero experience reading human behavior. Will you wake up screaming? Do you have others nearby who'll come running? Are you carrying something dangerous? That uncertainty alone is enough to make most predators back off. Unpredictable prey is high-risk prey. Then there's the size illusion. When humans stand upright, we actually look a lot bigger and more threatening than our actual body weight suggests. Standing tall on two legs is literally what gorillas and bears do when they want to intimidate something. Because upright posture is our default walking stance, animals instinctively read it as a display of confidence, even when we're just standing there doing nothing. Even curled up asleep, the general shape and size of a human doesn't scream easy meal the way a smaller four-legged prey animal does. And finally, why bother? In a healthy ecosystem, predators almost always have easier, more familiar food sources nearby. Going after a strange, unpredictable, potentially dangerous target when there's a deer or wild goat wandering nearby just doesn't make survival sense. The math simply doesn't favor the risk. Fifth reason, your sleep is a lot less off than it feels. Here's something genuinely wild about human biology. You're never as unconscious as you think you are. Sleep happens in cycles, dipping into deep sleep and then rising back up into lighter stages, including REM, where your brain stays surprisingly alert to the outside world. Scientists call this the Sentinel function of sleep, the idea that even while resting, your brain keeps a partial watch running in the background, filtering sounds and flagging anything unusual. A branch snapping too loudly, a shift in air pressure, movement that doesn't match the normal background noise of a forest. This isn't some happy accident. Ancestors who slept so deeply they couldn't respond to danger simply didn't survive to pass on their genes. The ones who could snap from unconscious to fully alert within seconds did survive. And that trait got passed down. Compared to most large mammals, human sleep evolved to stay lighter, more responsive, more on guard, because for most of our history, there was always something in the dark worth waking up for. So even at your most vulnerable, you're quietly running a low-level alarm system you're not even aware of. Sixth reason, you're rarely actually alone. Predators understand groups extremely well because their normal prey also lives in groups. A zebra at the center of a herd is far safer than one at the edge. Predators specifically hunt for separation. The isolated animal, the straggler, the one cut off from the pack. A campsite full of sleeping people isn't just a group, it's a group that reacts collectively. One person waking up and shouting is enough to wake everyone else instantly. For a predator trying to make a quiet, low-risk kill, the possibility of triggering a chaotic group response is exactly the kind of situation their instincts are built to avoid. Now, the honest part. None of this means you're completely safe, and it would be irresponsible to pretend otherwise. The rare cases where predators do attack humans almost always follow the same broken pattern: an injured animal that physically can't hunt normal prey anymore, a starving one whose habitat and food sources have collapsed, or one that's had so much contact with humans it's lost its natural wariness entirely, something that happens fast when animals get used to being fed by tourists. The infamous Tsavo lions in Kenya, blamed for dozens of railway worker deaths in the late 1800s, weren't typical lions. One had serious dental damage that made normal hunting nearly impossible. The Champawat tiger, responsible for hundreds of deaths in India and Nepal in the early 1900s, was later found to have shattered canine teeth from an old gunshot wound, leaving it physically unable to hunt its natural prey. Almost every documented case follows this same script. Something broke the normal rules first. Injury, desperation, or habituation to humans overrides the deep inherited caution, the fear that normally keeps the whole system in balance. And here's the part that's genuinely mind-bending. We've been so effective at making the wild afraid of us that it's reshaping entire ecosystems without us even realizing it. When big predators avoid areas with human activity, prey animals like deer face less hunting pressure, so their numbers grow, and they end up overgrazing the vegetation. At the same time, smaller predators like coyotes and foxes also avoid us, which means the rodent populations they'd normally keep in check start expanding too. One single inherited fear, passed down over thousands of generations, ripples outward and quietly rearranges the entire food chain, all without most animals ever directly encountering a human at all. So the next time you're lying in a tent, listening to the forest breathe around you, and that flicker of ancient unease creeps in, that's normal. That feeling is exactly what kept your ancestors alive long enough for you to exist. But the thing moving out there in the dark, it already knows the rules, and it's not coming in.